Greetings. It is Thursday, September 3rd, 11 o'clock. From yesterday night to this morning, the typhoon Maisak made its way through the eastern coast of Korea, causing considerable damage to some parts of the area. However, it has passed away and it feels like autumn is coming in the metropolitan area where the autumn breeze is blowing this morning. For the past 2 days, a very unexpected thing happened. IU, a 27-year-old singer and actress who is greatly loved by the people, gave an awakening call by saying that the president should be a leader of national integration. Yesterday and the day before yesterday, President Moon posted through his Facebook saying, "The ones who suffered most during the COVID-19 outbreak are the nurses. Because of the doctors' strike, the nurses had to carry out the doctors' duties along with theirs. As a result, some nurses even collapsed from overworking. I feel sorry for the amount of work they have, but also appreciate their devotion. Not just me, but many people are deeply moved by the hard work of the nurses. Among them, there is also an impressive story and support from the people, such as IU, who expressed her appreciation by donating cooling, anti-contamination clothing to the nurses." To summarize what President Moon posted on Facebook, please understand me using an uncomfortable expression. Doctors are losers, and they selfishly ignored their duties for their own sake. A few days ago, President Moon Jae-in said during the Chief Secretary meeting, "The doctors' strike during the pandemic is the same as the soldiers' desertion during war. There is no reasonable explanation for their strike. Thus, doctors are bad, but nurses are good people who are taking on the doctor's duties as well as theirs." By saying so, President Moon splits the people into two parties. One is good and one is bad. But his assertion is not true. Under the announcement of the Korean Doctors Association, the number of doctors carrying out their duties was more than that of nurses. Moreover, a nurse can't take over a doctor's duties. By mentioning such fake news, President Moon is splitting the people with no factual basis. IU felt uneasy about the president's twisted implication. It was as if IU has the same stance against the doctors. So, she revealed that she also donated the same amount of anti-contamination clothing that cost the same price to the doctors last February. Interpreting her correction, she strongly scolded the president's fact twist that harms the unity of the people. How brave it is for a 27-year-old girl, younger than my own grandson, to scold the president. I think she knows the spirit of Article 66 and 69 of our Constitution. Article 66 stipulates the president's duties to observe the Constitution and independence of the nation. The presidential oath of office under Article 69 also states the president's duty to comply with the Constitution. The president, as the chief of our nation, shall embrace all his people, regardless of their political stance. But, in the eyes of a 27-year-old, President Moon seemed not to do so. On this point, President Moon, as well as his blind supporters, should be ashamed of themselves. Also, the opposing parties should feel ashamed as well. The president must explain and persuade the people if there are collisions among groups, nationwide disputes, pandemic breakouts like COVID-19, or corruption scandals on his personnel. He should communicate with the people whenever needed. The best way for the president to communicate with the people is to hold a press conference. But President Moon has not done so. Instead, he wrote a Facebook message splitting people into two groups, doctors versus nurses. Why don't you have a press conference? You need to hold a press conference with free questioning and refutation. Therein, the press can question whether you understand the reasons for the strike against your new public healthcare policy. The core of the policy is to establish low-level public Medicare schools and to increase the number of doctors who work only for public Medicare centers. But it is just a cheating trick. Such reckless increase in the doctors may cause deterioration of the service quality. It seems to follow the worst-case example of the mass-productive healthcare systems in Cuba and Venezuela. This is the reason for the doctors' strike. How are the healthcare systems in Cuba and Venezuela? Such reckless increase in doctors caused deterioration of doctors' social position and skills. The overstaffed doctors have been exported to third world countries such as Africa at a giveaway price. They are now the resources to add some national revenues. President Moon's new healthcare policy follows such bad models. It is natural for the doctors to oppose and strike against it. There's no other way for doctors but to object. Now, it is time for the president to speak on this issue. You need to explain your plan and listen to the opinion of the opposite side. It is wrong for the president to bulldoze through without this procedure. The same wrongdoing has been committed by the Prime Minister and also the head of the ruling party's policy committee. This is the reason for the doctors' strike. Actually, President Moon caused the strike. How can a president baselessly condemn the doctors as the selfish group with wrong comparison to the nurses? We need to think of who caused the strike. Whenever I can, I always raise the same question to the president. Why don't you keep your promise to frequently communicate with the people? Why don't you hold an open press conference as you promised? Your previous press conferences were actually plotted without giving any refutation opportunities to the questioners. These are not true press conferences. It should be open for open refutation like the White House does. Communicating with the people should be different from your unilateral preaching during cabinet meetings. Moreover, you hid behind Facebook and looked down on the people through a peephole. Then you baselessly condemned the doctors for your sake. This is disrespectful to the people. Besides the president's non-compliance to the Constitution, I wonder how he can act in such manner. He acted in this way for over a year. In addition to this, I'd like to ask the president one more question. You approved the personnel plan of the Minister of Justice, Chumie, right? Then, what was the result of it? It completely devastated the prosecution. The core of her personnel plan was to scatter the prosecutors investigating the election scandal related with the regime and to hinder the investigation by depriving the prosecutor general's power to control the case. The core of Chumie's prosecution reform is to protect President Moon. In the bill of indictment of the Ulsan mayor election fraud case, the president has been mentioned over 40 times in different ways, such as for the president or of the president, etc. These words clearly show who the real suspect is. If things continued in this manner, the president should have held a press conference to explain whether it is true or not. Can we regard your silence as admittance? Also, you need to explain about the so-called Emperor Furlough scandal of Chumie's son. Rumor says that thanks to his mom, Chumie, her son's desertion from duty has been covered up as legal furlough. Her secretary called her son's commander to put pressure to ensure this outcome. Any discharged soldier can figure out what was going on in such case. No explanation needed. The most cases I handled as a military judge advocate for my 3-year military service were of such crimes. I can catch such crime at a glance. How dare they try to bury their heads in the sand? In such case, the president should come out and raise the issue. But he still did not do so. So now I am asking the president, did you call Minister Chu to question her regarding this rumor? Did you ask her what the real facts are? If it's the president, the chief of state, he should be able to inquire the cabinet member in question. Then, if the rumor is true, you have to ask her to step down from office. But the president says and does nothing. He even seems to connive. Upon the next year budget bill, the national debt has increased tremendously. It would be a big disaster for the next regime, but the president says nothing about this as well. Also, another bad news is that Korea will not be included in the military drill system with the US, Japan, Australia, and India. Why? We can easily guess the reason. Because this regime is pro-North Korea and pro-China. President Moon needs to explain about this issue too, as well as to why our country is unable to join the drill. To conclude, it is a very rare but a job well done for the 27-year-old singer and actress IU to bravely scold the president. By doing so, the president as well as his cabinet, the opposing parties, and all the members of Congress can reflect upon their doings. Once again, I strongly request the president to reply to our questions through an open press conference.